Job number 2026-1935-2. This is our final video after doing some extensive root cutting. This time we're going to go in the direction of flow. So we're accessing our drain through the 4-inch PVC cleanout tee, going down the PVC portion of the stack. And the horizontal here. And then transitioning into our 6-inch clay. Just a little bit of loose root there. Sitting around waiting to flush on through. We have a slow amount of water trickling down the laundry tub so we can observe flow characteristics. As we can see, as we're pushing forward here, we have a wide stream. So a lot of the drain underneath the building is running with lacking in proper pitch, so that's why we have a nice wide stream through here. Cooling water continuing. Cooling water tapering out here to what we would like to see along the whole stretch, which is this little trickle. And then back to some very minor pooling. Tee on the top, entering in on the top, possibly a test tee or some other connection. Back to some pooling water here. We have our clean out Y, and now we're exiting the home with a little bit of pooling water at the clean out. Roots here cut back very nicely. Another formation of roots cut back nicely. Roots also cut back nicely at 42. Again, we see just a nice, slow, short trickle here. That's what we want to see the whole way. Roots cut back as much as possible. Just a few thicker ones hanging in from the top, but we would hit that in forward and reverse rotation. Roots at 46 cut back nicely. Slight change in direction, doglegging off to the right. And then here we have some cooling water again. Roots cut back nicely at 49. Cooling water continuing. As we push forward, we can see how it surges. Roots cut back nicely there at 53. Water's relatively clear right now after flushing for a bit. Roots cut back nicely at 55. Roots cut back nicely at 58. Cooling water continuing. Cooling water continuing. Roots cut back nicely at 60. Roots cut back nicely at 64, pooling continuing. So pretty much all of this area here we have with this waving water is sections where the solids actually have to, and the liquids actually have to displace. We don't have actual flow through here. Getting a little deeper now. The camera is below the water line currently. Tapering out a little bit. Roots cut back nicely at 78. Cooling water continuing. Roots cut back nicely at 80. Cooling water continues. Roots cut back nicely at 82. Let's cut back at 84. Let's cut back at 86, pulling continuing. Let's cut back at 88. This is our first visible fractured section. We just see a fine fracture kind of running an arch on the top behind the tree roots. It's right next to the this joint, so fracture at 88. Cooling water continuing. Let's cut back nicely at 90. We have another fracture we can see on the top, arching across the top at 90. Consider both of those fine fractures. Cooling water continuing. Roots cut back nicely. Another fracture visible now behind the roots at 92. A little more advanced fracturing happening here. Let's cut back as much as possible. At 96, we see a lot of lateral fracturing and then some spiral fracturing all at this joint. Back to what we would like to see for water flow. Nice little trickle at the bottom indicating good pitch, but we do have fracturing going from about 97 through this whole section, continuing through that piece on into the next piece. Lateral fracturing is kind of spiraling around the top and then down around the sides. Lateral fracturing continuing into the next piece. We can see it running along the length on about the 9 o'clock position and about 1 o'clock position, running the length and getting more advanced in this next section here at 102. Lateral fracturing continuing. Even a piece that looks somewhat loose at between about 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock position. So between about 96 to 102, we have some continuous fracturing here, a combination of lateral and spiral. Back to some moderate pooling here as we come forward. Roots cut back nicely at 107. Another fracture visible now behind the roots at 108. Looks like an earthworm moving around the top. Poor guy. Hard to tell whether that's an actual fracture or maybe just some scarring in the formation of the pipe. It doesn't look jagged, it looks like maybe just a groove. Let's cut back nicely at 117. Nice small stream at the bottom, which is of note, because that means we have nice pitch through this section. Pull this hub. There we go. Roots at 129, cut back as nicely as possible. Some final roots at 131, cut back nicely. Also, we can see the visible fracturing at our Y connection to the city main. We can see it on the top, and then as we approach it at the bottom there, also has some cracking going on. And then that's the flow of our city main sewer going from left to right.